Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. The cold bite of the autumn air does nothing to prepare me for the icy shock of recognition as I turn the corner onto Fifth Avenue. There he stands, James, a ghost from my past work life, huddled under the scant shelter of a struggling cafe's awning. The last time I saw him, he was being escorted out of the office, his career collapsing under the weight of a very public scandal. James. The word escapes my lips before I can think better of it. His head snaps up, eyes narrowing before recognition dawns. A myriad of emotions flicker across his face: surprise, resentment, perhaps a trace of relief. "Alex," he replies, skepticism threading his tone. "Never thought I'd see you here." The awkwardness between us is palpable, and for a moment, I consider walking away. Yet, something about his haggard appearance makes me pause. "How have you been?" I ask, though the formality of the question hangs clumsily in the air. "Not great, if I'm honest." James forces a laugh, but it's hollow, devoid of humor. "Coffee?" He gestures vaguely to the cafe behind him. Inside, with steaming cups between us, the story spills out. James looks down at his coffee, stirring it absently. "I know I was wrong, Alex, but I really liked her. I fell in love like a fool. I'm sorry." His voice is a low murmur, tinged with regret. I lean back, processing his words. "Her." I prompt, though a knot is already forming in my stomach. "Your wife, Laura," he says, his eyes not meeting mine. The cafe seems to spin slightly. "Laura?" My voice is a whisper, disbelief lacing through it. "Yes." Now he looks up, his gaze steady. "She only used me to get promoted. Set me up. Got me fired." The bitterness in his voice stirs something dark within me. "Laura, my Laura, ambitious, charming, deceitful. It can't be." Yet, the pieces begin to align in a pattern too coherent to ignore. "Why are you telling me this?" My voice is steady, but inside, a storm rages. "Because I know what it's like," James says quietly. "To be used. And I think she needs to face some consequences for her actions. Revenge." The word hangs unspoken between us as we sit in the heavy silence of the cafe. Finally, I nod, the decision cementing itself within me. "What do you propose?" James's lips curl into a cold smile. "I've got a plan. But it's risky, and I can't do it alone. Are you in?" My heart pounds as I consider the ramifications. This isn't me, I'm not the vengeful type. But the image of Laura, my unfaithful wife, shatters any lingering hesitation. "Tell me more," I say, my voice a mix of fear and determination. As James outlines his plan, the cafe fades around us, the clinking cups and murmured conversations becoming distant. This is more than revenge, it's a reckoning. By the time we leave, the sun has begun to set, casting long shadows on the street. We step into the gathering darkness, partners in a plot that feels both terrifying and inevitable. Together, we walk into the night, our steps synchronized, a silent agreement binding us. The game has just begun. As the early rays of the morning sun spill through the gaps in the blinds, I find myself at a small, cluttered table in a dimly lit diner on the outskirts of town. James sits across from me, his face more composed than yesterday, as if the night had offered some reprieve from his demons. Next to him, a woman with sharp eyes and an air of authority observes us carefully. This is Melissa, a private investigator James knows from his days at the firm. He assures me she's crucial to our plan. "So, you want to bring Laura down," Melissa begins, her voice skeptical yet intrigued. "What exactly do you have in mind?" James leans forward, his hands clasped tightly around a cup of black coffee. We start by digging into her professional life. There's something off about how quickly she climbed the ladder, especially after my incident. Melissa nods, her gaze flickering to me briefly. You think she's dirty? Not just think, I interject, finding my voice. We know. She used personal relationships to manipulate outcomes. Who knows what else she's capable of? Melissa's eyes narrow slightly, considering. I can start by looking into her recent promotions. See who she's been dealing with, any irregularities in her emails, calls, financials. James and I exchange a look. The gravity of what we're embarking on settles heavily between us. And what about her personal life? Melissa adds, her pen poised above a small notepad. I swallow hard, the betrayal fresh once again. That too. Anything that shows who she really is behind the mask. The conversation shifts as we delve deeper into specifics. Melissa outlines the potential legal and ethical boundaries we'll be skirting. Every so often, she stops, eyes assessing, making sure we understand the risks involved. As we talk, the diner begins to fill, the morning crowd bringing a buzz of activity that contrasts sharply with our dark undertakings. By the time we stand to leave, a plan is in place, and Melissa is already making calls, her demeanor all business. Outside, the air is crisp, a reminder that the season is changing, perhaps reflective of the changes coming in our own lives. Are you sure about this? James asks as we reach his car, a note of concern in his voice. I stop, looking back at the diner, its windows steaming up from the warmth inside. Turning to face him, my resolve hardens. Yes. It's the only way to make things right. We part ways, and as I drive back to the city, my thoughts are a whirlwind of scenarios. Each traffic light that I stop at feels like a moment of decision, reaffirming my commitment to this path. Later, at the office, I see Lara from a distance, laughing with a group of colleagues. The sight stirs a complex cocktail of emotions. Betrayal, hurt, and a newfound determination mix inside me. As the day wears on, I find myself observing her more, noting interactions, gauging expressions. I begin to see the cracks in the facade I had once believed was flawless. Each smile, each casual touch with a coworker seems calculated, adding weight to my suspicions. By the time I leave the office, the shadows have grown long, and so has my list of doubts about the woman I thought I knew. As I step out into the cooling evening, my phone vibrates. It's Melissa. Her message is brief, found something interesting. Meet tomorrow. My reply is instantaneous, a single word that feels as heavy as it is liberating, yes. The sun sets as I drive home, the horizon a blaze of red and gold, like a fire warning of the destruction that might come. Yet, in the heart of that fire, there's a promise too, a promise of revelation and, perhaps, of redemption. The small, stark white room where we meet seems all too appropriate for the revelations about to unfold. It's early, barely past dawn, and the city hums quietly outside as it awakes. Melissa is already there when I arrive, her laptop open and several documents spread across the table. The air feels charged with anticipation. I've been up all night going through the data, Melissa starts without preamble, her eyes sharp and focused. Lara's been busy. James, who looks like he hasn't slept, shifts uncomfortably in his chair. What did you find? Melissa clicks on a spreadsheet, lines of numbers and dates filling the screen. Here, she points to a column marked Transactions. See these entries? They're irregular payouts disguised as consultancy fees. The amounts don't match up with standard rates, and they're paid to a shell company. Can we trace it back to her directly? I ask, leaning in to get a closer look. Not directly. But, Melissa taps another tab, the shell company is linked to her brother. I dug deeper into his financials and guess what? Half of these payments were transferred to a personal account under Lara's name. James lets out a low whistle, shaking his head. She's laundering money through her own brother. It seems so. And there's more. Melissa's fingers fly over the keyboard, pulling up another document. Laura has been manipulating project bids. She ensures her preferred contractors win, likely in exchange for kickbacks. The room goes silent as the weight of her deception sinks in. I feel a mix of anger and betrayal churning inside me, a toxic brew that's becoming all too familiar. What do we do with this information? James's voice is tense, anxious. We need solid proof that she's personally involved, Melissa replies. These documents suggest it, but suggestions won't hold up if we take this to the authorities. Or to the company, I add, thinking ahead to the potential fallout. Exactly. Melissa nods. I suggest we put her under surveillance. Track her meetings, her calls. If we can catch her in the act, she won't be able to talk her way out of it. James agrees, albeit reluctantly. If that's what it takes. Good. Melissa closes her laptop with a snap. I'll set everything up. We'll need to be careful. If she catches on, she could bury everything before we have a chance to expose her. The meeting ends with each of us carrying a heavier burden than we had walked in with. As I step outside, the sharp morning air does little to clear the fog of wariness clouding my thoughts. Throughout the day, I find it increasingly difficult to focus on work. My eyes drift often to Laura, watching her glide through her day with ease and charm. Knowing what I now know, her poise seems nothing more than a well-practiced facade. Late in the afternoon, I receive a text from Melissa, surveillance is set. Check your email. Details inside. At home, I pore over the surveillance schedule and the equipment we'll use. Hidden cameras, microphones, even tracking her car. It feels like something out of a spy novel, yet here I am, about to spy on my own wife. The next few days are a blur of covert activities. We monitor Lara's every move, capturing hours of footage and audio. Each piece of evidence feels like a nail in the coffin of the life I once thought we shared. Then, one evening, as I review the day's recordings, I catch something. Lara, in her office, speaking low and hurriedly on the phone. Make sure the money is transferred by Friday. If anyone gets wind of this, we'll both be in deep trouble. I pause the recording, heart pounding. This is it. The proof we need. Melissa was right. Lara's deceit runs deeper than any of us had imagined. With the evidence in hand, I call James and Melissa. It's time to confront the reality we've uncovered, to face Lara and the ruins of our shattered life. The next steps are clear, but as I dial their numbers, my hand trembles. This is the point of no return. The conference room is icy with anticipation as we wait for Lara to arrive. Melissa, James, and I are seated on one side of the table, each of us clutching a sheaf of papers, the damning evidence of Lara's misdeeds. Outside, the sky is overcast, the gloomy weather mirroring the mood inside. When Lara enters, her confidence is palpable. She greets us with a smile, unaware of the storm about to break. "What's this all about?" she asks, her voice light, almost amused. "We need to talk about some irregularities we've found," I start, my voice steady despite the chaos raging inside me. Lara sits, her smile fading as she notices the serious expressions around the table. "Irregularities?" she echoes. "Yes," Melissa interjects, sliding a folder across the table to her. "Financial irregularities, conflicts of interest, and more. We have substantial evidence of wrongdoing." Lara's eyes narrow as she flips through the documents. With each page, her facade cracks a little more. When she looks up, her composed mask has slipped. "Where did you get this? Does it matter?" James challenges. "What matters is that you've been caught." Lara's gaze flicks to me, betrayal written across her face. "Alex? You're in on this?" I meet her stare, feeling my resolve harden. "I had to know the truth, Lara. And now I do." For a moment, Lara is silent, processing her rapidly unraveling situation. Then, surprisingly, she laughs, a short, bitter sound. You think you know everything? You think this is just about me? What are you talking about? I ask, a flicker of uncertainty passing through me. Lara leans back, her eyes scanning each of us. This goes beyond me. I was a pawn, just like you, Alex. Yes, I made mistakes, but not everything is as it seems. Melissa scoffs. So you're claiming you're just a scapegoat? Not just claiming, Lara retorts sharply. She reaches into her briefcase, pulling out another set of documents, throwing them onto the table. Look at these. We scramble to see what she's presented. Contracts, emails, and communications not just from Lara, but from several high-level executives within the company. The scope of corruption is far broader than we had imagined, implicating figures we hadn't considered. You were setting up a sting? James asks, disbelief coloring his tone. Lara nods grimly. I've been working with federal agents for months. They approached me when they got wind of what was happening. I had a choice: help them uncover the real rot at the core of the company, or go down for a smaller part of it. Why didn't you tell me? The question tears from me, a mix of anger and pain. Because I couldn't trust anyone. Not with this. Not even you, Alex. Her voice softens slightly. I'm sorry. Silence descends, heavy and uncomfortable, as her words sink in. Lara, a covert informant? The revelation shifts everything I thought I knew. Melissa breaks the silence, her tone professional. We'll need to verify this with your contacts. Lara nods, pulling out her phone. I'll call Agent Harrison. He can confirm everything. As she steps out to make the call, James leans over, whispering, did we just make a massive mistake? I don't know, I admit, feeling a profound sense of disorientation. Moments later, Lara returns, followed by a stern-looking man in a suit. This is Agent Harrison, she introduces. The agent confirms Lara's involvement, explaining how critical she was in the ongoing investigation. As he speaks, the final pieces of the puzzle fall into place. Lara had been deeper in the game than any of us realized, not for personal gain but as part of a larger plan to cleanse the company of its systemic corruption. The meeting ends with new alliances forming as quickly as old ones had shattered. As everyone files out, Lara hangs back. She approaches me, her expression unreadable. Alex, I never wanted to hurt you, she says quietly. I know, I respond, the anger giving way to a weary resignation. But it's going to take time to understand all of this. I'll wait, she replies, a flicker of hope in her eyes. As she leaves, I sit back, alone in the quiet room, contemplating the intricate web of deceit, duty, and the unexpected chance at redemption. Outside, the clouds begin to part, a sliver of blue sky promising clearer days ahead.